Host of Just Books on Ndtv Profit and editor of The Big Bookshelf, Sunil Sethi joins me on Off the Record. Before I ask him anything else about the book or the show, because he's been in conversation with 300 writers and is going to continue, I'm asking you, do you need a second producer for your show? Can I apply?
Please do, I'd be delighted. But you know, this is a very small budget, very tight show. Believe me, it's a bit like writing books. 90% is perspiration and about 10% is inspiration. So you're delighted to come along, but it's a slog.
I'd like to talk about the Pakistani writers because I've been reading a lot. I just finished Jamil Ahmad's The Wandering Falcon. I'm a great fan of Nadeem Aslam and Danial Moinuddin. What is it about their writing that is so exquisite? Is it because they draw their inspiration from Urdu poetry?
Well, that certainly is true of Nadeem Aslam's writing. But Nadeem Aslam is an exception. He was brought up in a strictly Urdu-speaking village in Pakistan till the age of 14, when, because of political persecution of his family, they had to leave Pakistan under General Zia-ul-Haq's regime and migrate to England. And this 14-year-old boy, without knowing one word of English, was transplanted into a small industrial village in Yorkshire in Britain. And his learning was very hard. So you can feel it in writing, that the way he's using English language, the metaphors, the beauty, is really coming out of memories of Urdu. But to talk about people like Mohsin Hamid, author of The Reluctant Fundamentalist, or Danial Moinuddin, author of In Other Rooms, Other Wonders, brilliant collection of short stories, I think the unique thing about Pakistani writing and the reason it's acquired such acclaim in recent years is that their writing comes out of angst. From a country that has suffered so much political volatility, where life has been so hazardous, where democracy is in peril, where the old order is breaking down, to really not produce a new order. And life is in transition, and they see social structures, political structures breaking down, the economy in tatters, that it comes out of that terrible pain to explain their crumbling world to themselves and to a wider readership.
You know, I was actually disappointed that the interview with Danial Moinuddin was rather short. Was he difficult to talk to? Was he very reticent?
Well, you know, Danial is again an extraordinary story. He's half American, half Pakistani, and he lived all his life in America and then came back to manage his father's ancestral farm in southern Punjab in Pakistan. He's a very interesting guy. He's just not very eloquent. He just writes beautifully, but when you talk to him, though he's very friendly and charming and has the looks of a movie star, he talks in short staccato sentences and gets self-conscious and dries up. That's why it's short.
That wouldn't have been a problem at all with Alexander McCall Smith. Is he as feisty and indefatigable and inimitable as his characters?
Inimitable is the word. You know, he's exactly your image of a fat, jolly Englishman in a hat. Actually, he would object to that. He would immediately correct me or you and say, "You mean fat, jolly Scotsman," because that's what he is. You know, he is spent most of his life as a professor of medical law. He has written the most erudite, scholarly books on forensic science and, you know, interpreting dreams. And he's Professor Emeritus of Law at Edinburgh University. But he's in real life, or his imagined life, this brilliant humorist. And he writes, he's a brand name in his own rights. Not only does he write many, many novels a year, including those famous series, the #1 Ladies Detective Agency and the Isabel Dalhousie novels, he also has returned to the Victorian age of writing, that is to say, or the Tamil age of writing. He writes his novels as newspaper serials.
Yes, yes.
They appear every week. In The Scotsman, The Guardian, online. He's so prolific. He sells something like 400 million copies. I found him completely by accident, not in his beloved Edinburgh, but in a Lachin's bungalow, a fake Lachin's bungalow in the rural depths of Haryana called Tickley Bottom. And he was a joy to interview.
You know, he also plays the bassoon in an orchestra called the Really Terrible Orchestra, and he advocates the raising of pigs, and he insists on being called Sandy. You know, we have run out of time, but there are still so many writers to talk about. You should buy the book and read it. But my last question to you is, what kind of book do you like? Not so much what you like to read, but what kind of writing do you identify with and see yourself in?
Well, you know, that's a really hard question. I mean, I'm a compulsive reader. Which means I must be a frustrated writer.
No, because here, you know, Archer says, Jeffrey Archer says, we all end up doing the thing we're second best at. But Mr. Javed Akhtar says, we start doing the thing which we have been preparing ourselves for years. So,
right.
Which of the two is true for you?
I always, I have to tell you, I enjoy all kinds of books, and my own bookshelves are just bursting because I simply get so many. But if I were to be asked personally as what I identify with, largely I would say, though not completely, it's non-fiction over fiction, maybe because I'm a journalist and a frustrated writer. But I really love getting into other people's lives. That is to say, I love biography, I love history, I love travel books. But you know, fiction also has the ability of bringing all this to life.
Together, yes. It's been such a delight talking to you. You must consider what I said about the second producer for Just Books, or just somebody to dust your bookshelf also would be fine.
Thank you so much, Anuradha, and an absolute joy.
Thank you for joining us, and do buy the book, The Big Bookshelf.